close the doors of your mind, close the gates of your mind, close the gates of your thought process, your makashaba, your yetzer, your imaginations within your thought process, within your tikfarah, within your belly, even down to your hands and your feet, your yad and your kaf and your regal that control your body. And even down to your 12 melanin centers, your 12 cranial nerves that control your thought process. And bring your mind to a center and balance within oneself. And remove all, he says, extinguish all of the seeds. And he says, bring all of the seeds in the thought process that Satan, Satan, all is sown throughout your, sown and throughout your mind throughout the whole week. So today is a day of freedom. Today is the day that Yahuah has given to us as a Natan, as a gift, another Shabath, that we may cease from our works and our labors, our own selfish self, and our own mind, and our own thoughts, and our own understanding, and our own way of putting on and dressing ourselves properly, and allow him to dress and clothe us properly, and allow us to address our eyes, and address our ears, and address what we say out of our mouth, that we may put our hand over our mouth, and now acknowledge the one, and knowing it is better to hear the rebuke, a tukah of the wise, than hear the song of a fool. So today we acknowledge the one who made all the hard and the heart of the earth, all the rivers and streams on the surface of the earth, under the earth, and the celestial cosmic waters that are above the earth and under the earth, and the one who allows the water to flow from his throne into 4 rivers by his Ruach, Yahuah Elohim. So this Yom, as we move forward in the fruits of the Ruach, but also we move forward in life. Because we should not, he said, Yahushua said, I've come that you might have life and have it more abundantly, right? So this is the book of Haggai, Haggai, chapter 2, and verse 5. Chapter 2 and verse 5. It says, according to the covenant that I made with you when you came out of Mizraim, it says, my Ruach remains in your midst, right? So just like he made a covenant, we did Pesach, right? And he made a covenant to come out of Mizraim. But he said, my Ruach remains in your midst. Fear not, right? Because people don't believe in the Ruach. They don't believe that the Ruach moved upon the face of the waters. Ruach Marakaf Al Panim. That's both male and female. He said, have you received the Ruach since you believed? Why? Because he says laziness don't produce the Ruach. He says faithfulness don't produce the Ruach. Gentleness, when you say faithfulness produces the Ruach, gentleness produces the Ruach, aha produces the Ruach. Right? Patience produces the Ruach. Right? These are things that lead to the Ruach being manifest. It says, my Ruach remains in your midst. Fear not, for that says Yahuah of hosts. Yet once more, in a little while, I will shake the Shamayim, right? So he's going to shake the Rakia. He's going to shake the Shamayim, the Shabai Shamayim. The very same thing when you look at the 7 celestial circles and the 7 mu'ahs. Every time you have a mu'ah, he's going to shake the Shamayim. As a matter of fact, he's going to shake the earth. And the earth and the yam, the sea, and the dry land, right? I'm going to do all of that by my Ruach. He said, when it happened, don't fear. And I will shake all nations. He said, I'm going to shake all the goyim, so that the treasures of all nations shall come in, and I will fill this house with kabod, says Yahuah of hosts. He said, I'm going to fill this house with kabod. Why? Well, first I have to do something. I have to shake things and move things around. The very same things, he said, I have to shake within oneself. He said, I will fill the kabod, says Yahuah of hosts. He said, the silver is mine and the gold is mine. So you think it's yours? No, it's his. The silver is mine and the gold is mine, declared Yahuah of hosts. The latter kabod of this house shall be greater than the former. So you look at your past life. Look at where you came from. Look at the things that you did, the decisions that you made, the things that you operated in, the behaviors that you operated in, the thought process and the understanding that you operated in. And he said that latter house that you had built before, that you thought was so great and wonderful, he said, the latter kabod of this house shall be greater than the former, says Yahuah of hosts. So this, he said, Shamayim is my throne, the earth is my footstool, Yeshayahu 66, Isaiah 66. What ba'ith will you build for me? He said, this latter house that you built, it's going to be way greater than the one you had before. So if you have anything from your old life, behaviors from your old life that are manifested just understand that stuff is like, that's nothing compared to what you're supposed to, where you're going. If you still have them, if you still have the behaviors, it's nothing compared to where you're going. And it says, and in this place, I will give shalom. I will give peace. How you gonna get there? He gonna have to shake some things in your life. He gonna have to move some things around. He gonna get you to understand that you don't own nothing. And then he has to get you to the point where he says, the latter thing that you did, the former things you did, is not even gonna be compared to what the kabod of this house gonna look like. And I'm gonna give you shalom. Declares Yahuah of hosts. And all this is a part of it, right? Because all these things are a part of it, right? So this is going to the book of Hebrews. Going to the book of Hebrews. Book of Hebrews, chapter 3 and verse 1. The book of Hebrews, chapter 3. The book of Aydah, Hebrews, chapter 3 and verse 1. Hebrews, chapter 3, verse 1. Let's get there. And it says, therefore, Kudash brothers and sisters, it says, you who share in the Shamy'ny heavenly calling, the Shamy'ny calling, consider Yahushua the Shalakim and the HaKahan of our confession, right? Consider him. And it says, who was faithful to him who appointed him. He was faithful to him that appointed him. Just as Mashah was faithful in all Elohim's, Yahuah's house. He said the latter house that he had before, the former, ain't gonna be nothing to this house. That house that Mashah had, he's like, man, that house ain't gonna be nothing compared to the house that's getting ready to be. And he's gonna have so much shalom in it. And get what it says. It says, for Yahushua has been counted worthy of more kabod than Mashah. He said the latter house is gonna be greater than the former. As much more kabod as the builder of a house has, it says, for as much more kabod or glory as the builder of a house has, more honor than the house itself. For every house is built by someone. It's all built by a human being. It is. But for every house is built by someone, but the builder of all things is Elohim. He said, look at the builder of all things. Who would you rather have build your house and make it greater than your former life? You want Yahuah to build your house. Because you know if Yahuah builds your house, you already know it's gonna have more kabod than my former life. It's gonna be way much kabod than my former life. Now Mashah was faithful in all Elohim's house as a servant to testify to the things that were to be spoken later. But Mashiach is faithful over Elohim's house as a son. See, there's a difference between a son and a servant, right? It's just like when somebody make a trust fund. It's a difference between a servant, a co-trustee, than a son who's going to inherit all things. He said, you're just a servant. And he says, but it's a difference. And we are his house. And who? But Mashiach is faithful over Elohim's house as a son. So what are we? And we are his house. So we Yahuah's house. We. An-Aknu. Ba'ith. Yahuah Ba'ith. An-Aknu. Yahuah's Ba'ith. That's what we are. We are his house. And Yahushua is faithful over his house. And he says the latter house is way greater than the former. And guess what? Because you know a household, a family. That's what a Ba'ith is. And he's serving over the whole family. If indeed we hold fast our confidence and our boasting and our hope. He said if you hold fast the confidence that Yahushua going to take care of Yahuah's house like he said he is, because Yahushua is faithful like that. if you have confidence that Yahushua going to do everything for you and help you and take care of his family, then guess what? You have confidence in him, and guess what? He already has confidence. It's just the fact that the people in the house that don't believe that you are part of his household and family don't have confidence in the person that's actually leading the household. And that's the same thing both naturally and in the Ruach. Therefore, as the Kudash Ruach says, right? He said, don't be afraid, his Kudash Ruach is among you. Therefore, as the Kudash Ruach says, today, if you hear his voice, who? Do not harden your hearts. Who hear whose voice? Yahushua's voice. Who you think is in charge of all this? He said, do not harden your hearts as in the rebellion. He said, don't harden your hearts against Yahushua Mashiach. Why? On the day of the testing in the wilderness, when your fathers put me to the test. Who did Yahuah put in charge of this house? And saw my works 40 years. He said, and they saw all the work that he did to take care of the house and all the people and his family. And they saw all the works and all the things he did. And then you know what they did? They shunned all the works he did. They made it seem like he ain't do nothing at all. We talking about the Elohim who created the universe and all things and created everything. They made it seem like he was nothing. Where your fathers put me to the test and saw my works 40 years, therefore I was provoked with that generation. He said, I was provoked with that people, that Tuladah, and said, they always go astray in their heart. Right? We talked about this a lot. We seen Yaakov, we seen Laban, we seen Rakal, we see many others. He said they always go astray in their heart. And guess what? They have not known my ways. You know why? Because he said they haven't known. Right. Why would he say that? Because everything that we do, he said they have not known my ways. And you know what else he said? As I swore in my wrath, they should not enter my rest. And you know what happens after that? Take care, brothers and sisters, lest there be in any of you an evil, unbelieving heart. Why? Because you don't have confidence in the person that's going to take care of the house. You don't have no hope and no confidence in that person that's taking care of the house. And therefore, you have an unbelieving heart. And guess what? You know what you're going to do after that? You have an unbelieving heart of the person who's taking care of you and taking care of the house and taking care of his family. You know what it says? Any of you, an evil, unbelieving heart, leading you to fall away from the living Elohim. He said you're going to fall away from the living Elohim because you ain't got no confidence in Yahushua Mashiach taking care of the house and the family. You ain't got no confidence in it. You ain't got no confidence in the man taking care of the house. He said, ain't no way in the world. He said, you're going to fall away. You're going to leave. You're going to go back. Because you have no confidence in him. And guess what? But exhort one another every day. Why? Because this is an everyday process. This ain't no... Why you think it's so easy for a human being to lose hope and confidence in somebody who's taking care of a house? Because you don't tell each other and warn each other and exhort each other every day. He's going to do everything he said. He's going to give everything he's supposed to do. He's going to take care of us. He's going to do these things. You're not saying these things every single day. He's going to get us out of the situation. He's going to help us out. He's always done. When we cry to him, he's going to answer us. He's going to come help us. We don't believe. But exhort one another every day. He said every day. He said, why does a woman want to go back to her mother's house after she gets married? But exhort one another daily, every day, as long as it's called day, that none of you may have hardened by the deceitfulness of sin. That's why. Because of sin. For we have come to share in Mashiach. He said that's what happens, two becoming one. We come to share in Yahushua Mashiach. He said if you believe on his name, then he said you must suffer just like he suffers. You must put on a servant's mindset. Because he was not seeking his own kabod. Because when Abigail came into the house with Dawid, he said, I'm going to be a sheep here to wash the feet of your servants. Yahushua said the greatest among you going to be as the youngest, and the leader is one who serves. But he said servitude is something that people don't want to do anymore. Abad, Shifka, that's hard. Because it goes against everything Yahushua said, right? Like they say. We ain't supposed to do that. But in actuality, you are. Because you're supposed to be following him. But it says, if indeed we hold our original confidence firm unto the end. He said firm unto the end. You got to do this all the way to the end. It's the same thing when you have a marriage covenant, a ketubah, or any type of agreement. You got to do it to the end. There's no, yeah, you know what? As it is said, today, if you hear his voice, because, you know, people say they hear Yahuwah's voice. Yahuwah's voice going to tell you, you know what? Go back. That's what Yahuwah going to tell you? Forget them. Forget him. That's what Yahuwah going to tell you? He said, man, Yahuwah said, go back to Mizraim. You think that's Yahuwah saying that? Forget them. You think that's Yahuwah saying that? No, that ain't Yahuwah telling you that. And it says, today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. Right, because as in the rebellion, because that's the whole point. We say, why we started there? Because it's important. The very same thing that we always say, like we always look at ourselves and we say, we know. But this is Chachmas Shli Shaloma, Wisdom of Solomon 6:12-25. Wisdom is glorious and never fadeth away. Yet she is easily seen of them that love her, and found of such as seek her. Right? So we say you seek in Chachma. Why? Because wisdom is there's a lot of attributes that come with it. There's many things and many behaviors and many words that come with it. And it says, she prevented them that desire her in making herself first known unto them. Whosoever seeketh her early shall have no great travail, for he shall find her sitting at his door. Exhort one another daily, that you won't lose your confidence in your hope. Every single day. In your mind. Every day. He should find her sitting at your doors. Why? Where was Abraham sitting at in front of his tent, ready to serve the Malaki when they came? And you know what happens? To think there upon her is perfection of Hakma, right? It's just like the Thumim. He said, it's just like the Thumim. Yahushua said, be therefore perfect, even as your father in Shamy'n is perfect. So you think being therefore perfect, even as your father in Shamy'n is perfect, is going back to Mizraim? Is losing confidence in the hope in the one who's going to take care of the home, Yahushua Mashiach? Right? When it says right here, for he shall find her sitting at doors. This is, to think thereupon her is the perfection of Hakma, and whoso watches for her shall quickly be without care. If you watching, if you got your iron fixed. He said you watch, you got experience in this. And guess what it says? To think thereupon her, and it says, for she goeth about seeking such as are worthy of her, showeth herself favorably in the ways, and meeteth them in every thought. So you think about your makashba in every thought. If your makashba and your thought process is always to go back, to what one used to do, you know, the former house, the former life, the former house. How is one going to be able to attain and get the kabod that Yahuwah has in the house that's to come? In the latter house. Why? It says, for the very beginning of her is the desire of discipline. Because he said, the only reason one's mind, he said, exhort each one another daily. That requires discipline. And the care of discipline is ahab, love. That's why love. Why? Because love is what allows things to stay together. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 1. 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 1. 1 Corinthians chapter 13 verse 1. If I speak in the tongues of men and of Malakim, you can search all the books in the whole world. You can understand the Malakim. But I have not Ahaba. I am a noisy gong and a clanging cymbal. Why? Because Ahab is a masculine energy. Ahab is both male and female. He said, but if I don't have Ahab, I am nothing. I am a noisy gong and a clanging cymbal. He said, he says a loud cymbal and a loud instrument. He says, and he says, and if I have all prophetic powers, I'm a Nabi Yah. I can speak all these things and understand all mysteries. I can understand it all. And all Binah. And if I have all Amuna, so as to move mountains, but have not Ahab, I am nothing. If I give away all that I have and deliver my body to be burned, but have not love, Ahab, I gain nothing. Ahab is patient. He said, you need a little bit of patience, so you got to go through tribulation. Tribulation worketh patience, and patience experience. You know, experience is the iron, too. That's the only way you're going to get it. Because the iron is actually experience. You know what it says? In kind. It's required of us to love kindness and to walk sanah in the sight of Yahuah. It's required. To love does not envy or boast. We talk about envy. Because consuming envy does not dwell with Hakam. Or boast. It don't boast. It is not arrogant or rude. He said not arrogant. Right? What else? It does not insist on its own way. It doesn't insist on its own way. What he said, what I want to do. Because a lot of things we want to do is your own way, but the plans of Yahuah are going to stand though. It is not irritable or resentful. It's not irritable or resentful. That is being, I say, irritable is bitterness, mean treated in an unfair way. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing. He said, why would you rejoice at wrongdoing? I'm committing fornication, I'm going to rejoice. That's like a reveling party. I'm slandering, I'm going to rejoice. I'm lying, I'm going to rejoice. Right. But rejoices with the truth. That's why he says, my son, hear and cleave and praise Yahuah. Why? Because he's talking about love bears all things. Why do you think Jacob stayed there for 20 years? He had a lot more love Ahab than most people think, because it's a masculine energy. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Why do you think Jacob stayed there with Laban? Why do you think he stayed there with his 2 wives, his 12 kids, 12 sons, his sons, and all his daughters? Why do you think he stayed there? Ahab bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Ahab never ends. Shaul never been through that. Shaul never had 12 kids, 12 children, and had 2 wives and all that stuff, and had to deal with 4 women and children, and keep his mind on Yahuah and all the things. Shaul's like, I'd rather be even as I. See, Shaul was like, but even Yaakov in himself he said, Shaul already knew, if I ain't like my father Yaakov, like the patriarchs, he said, I don't got nothing to stuff that he had. But yeah, I still got to do it because he did it. And I don't got none of the stuff he had. So if Shaul would have said, you know what, I ain't got to have no love. He said, so you ain't going to be nothing like, look at your cove and all, they had to go through that. So he had to do something. He says, love never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. They're going to pass away. Eventually, a Nabi Yah going to die. Eventually. Even the people who ain't taste death going to eventually die. You're going to pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. You're going to eventually go to the dust, for dust thou art, and dust thou shalt return. As for knowledge, it will pass away. All that knowledge, we know how much the art that one has within oneself. He said, once you die and go to the grave, for we know in part and we never in part. But when the perfect comes, the partial will pass away. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became mature, I gave up childish ways. And that's what you got to give up your former life. Because the kabod of the latter house is going to be greater than the former. That's both male and female. And the only way you're going to have it, it's going to be greater than the former. It's going to have to be love. Ahad with it. That's the only way. When I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became mature, I gave up childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Panim, panim. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known. So now Amunah, right, because you got to have faith, Amunah. Hope, because you can't lose your hope and confidence in the one who's going to take care of the house, Yahushua Mashiach, and Aha. That's what's going to make you stay. That's what's going to make you exhort each other daily, as it's called today. And you know what else he going to say? Abad, love Abad. These three, but the greatest of these is Aha. Ahaba. That's the greatest. That's the greatest. You say you want to know the greatest of all? Love. Aha. He said, man, he loved me. Yeah, because you know what? It's the greatest of all. And he still got to be a servant. She loved me. Yeah, it means that you're the greatest of all. That means you still got to be a sheep, a nibad. You still got to do it. Because all that's a part of it. Regardless of how one may understand it. And it says verse 19. Verse 13, going back to Wisdom of Solomon 6:12 through 25. Therefore, the desire of Hakmah bringeth to the kingdom. That's how you're going to get there. And going up to verse 17. Going to verse 17. For the very true beginning of her is the desire of discipline. And the care of discipline is Ahab, love. And Ahaba is the keeping of her laws. And the giving heed unto her laws is assurance of incorruption. It's assurance of eternal life. As a matter of fact, and incorruption maketh us near unto Yahuah. What do you think Hakmah is? What do you think Ahab is? It's an incorruptible life that makes you near to Yahuah, closer to him, because Yahuah is love. Ahab. And once you that's how you get closer to him, is through love. Ahab. That's how you get closer to him, near to him. You can't even get close and near to him without it. Without wisdom and Ahab. You can't get close to him like that. It's like a man saying, oh, I want this Isha close to me, or this Nishim close to me, but he said, you ain't got no wisdom, Ahab, you ain't got no Hakmah and no Ahab. How you going to be near me? That's how Yahuah is. How? How you going to be joined to me? And get what it says. Therefore, the desire of Hakmah bringeth to the kingdom of Yahuah. Yahuah said, I'll bring you right to my house. Hakmah and love, I'll bring you right to my kingdom. But then some people got into the kingdom, into his house, or even got into somebody's house, and they have no Ahab and Hakmah in their heart. And then now, Yahuah like, Satan, where you come from? Because that's the only person you're going to be. Because he said, when they all, in the book of Job, when they all appeared before Yahuah, he said, they all appeared and Satan came. He's like, you ain't got no wisdom and no love. I already know you are Satan, right? That's how Yahuah is. Because Yahuah can smell Ahab and Hakmah. It's very pleasant. Verse 21. If your delight be then in thrones and scepters, O kings, Malakim of the people, honor Hakmah that you may reign forevermore. You say, why we keep repeating this? Because it's a part of the nature that man rejects. Because that's what they did to Yahushua. In Yeshayahu 53, it says he was despised and rejected by men, a man acquainted with grief, a man of sorrows. We were the people who rejected him. That's why they rejected him. They ain't want no Hakmah and they ain't want no Ahab. They ain't want no love. Because that's all a part of it. If you're the light, and it says right here, that we may reign forevermore. As for wisdom, what she is, and how she came up, I will tell you, and will not hide mysteries from you, but will seek her out from the beginning of her nativity, and bring the knowledge of her into light, and will not pass over the truth. Neither will I go with consuming envy. He said, I'm not going with you. He said, I'm not going to habitate on the inside of you. And he says, for such a man or woman shall have no fellowship with Hakma. And they definitely going to lose hope and confidence in Yahushua Mashiach and the one who takes care of the house. That's for sure. And it says, but the multitude of the wise is the welfare of the world. He said, you're not even going to be the welfare of your own household if you ain't got Ahab and Hakma on the inside of you. And a wise king is the upholding of his people. Receive therefore instructions through my words, and it shall do you good. Why? Because it's all a part of it, right? So go in the book of Bereshit, chapter 30. Bereshit chapter 30 and verse 29. Actually, yeah, going back to Bereshit chapter 30 and let's see. Yeah. Bereshit chapter 30 and verse 19. 30 and 16. 30 and 16. And when Yaakov came from the field in the evening, right, because it's evening time, right, Leah went out to meet him and said, hey, how many women go out to meet their husband at evening time? At Aydah. She came out to meet him and said, you must come in to me, for I have hired you with my son's mandrakes. So he lay with her that night. And Elohim listened to Leah, right? People say, then people say, why? Because she Ahab'd him. And she had no envy in her heart. That's why he listened to her. And Elohim listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore Yaakov a fifth son. He said he bore Yaakov a fifth son, right? So that's her fifth son that he bore him, right? So you see Leah bearing what? He said Leah bore Reuben. He said, man, he gave me a son. Shamy'ny. I mean, who had heard me? Louis, man, my husband will love me. And he bore Yehudah. Man, I'm going to praise Yahuah. Then recall, that's 4 sons. Then recall Yahuah has judged me and called his name Don, right? That's 5. And then what happened after that? She had a 6th son. And she said, I'm wrestling with my sister. That's Naphtali. Right? And then Leah said, you know what? I'm going to do the same thing you did. And Yahuah has given me good fortune, so I'm going to call his name God. Right? That's the 7th son. And then she said, man, I'm happy. And she called his name Asher. That's the 7th son. Maybe we get to say it's the 7th day, swore not rest law, word perfection. He said, I'm happy, man. But then Yahuah listened to her again. That's the 7th son. Right? That was the 8th son, right, she had. Right? We look at that 8th son that she had was Asher. And then you see right here, she said, and Elohim listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore Yaakov a 5th son. And Leah said, Elohim has given me my wages, right? Because I gave my servant to my husband. So she called his name Yitzchak. He said, so why she call him Yitzchak? He said, man, and what son that is? Oh man, that's the 9th son. You know, we look at the 9th son, we say, what does the 9th son got to do with anything? 9th son got to do with a lot of things, right? But it's all a part of it, right? So this is the book of Davari HaYamim, 1 Chronicles. He said, why? He said, man, why? Right, this is 1 Chronicles chapter 12. 1 Chronicles, Aleph, Davari HaYamim, 1 Chronicles chapter 12 and verse 31. 1 Chronicles chapter 12, verse 31. Of the half tribe of Manasseh, 18,000, and were expressly named to come and make Dawid king. Of Yitzchak, right? Of Yitzchak, you know, the 9th son. Men who had understanding of the times. He had what? An understanding of the times to know what Yasharal ought to do. 200 chiefs and all their kinsmen under their command. He said they had knowledge of the times. This is the word for 1 Chronicles chapter 12, First Chronicles, Dabari Hayamim, chapter 12. Dabari Hayamim, chapter 12, and verse 32. That word for times. You say, why is this important? It's very important. The word for times is eighth. 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 It means time. It means also season. Evening. Time, season. Evening time. When did noon, right? Times. When did Leah come to she went to go see Yahuah in the evening time. And amazingly, Yahuah listened to her. And man, she gave him a nice son. You know, he brought the nice son. You know what he called his name? Issachar. Man, he had an understanding of the times. And you know what happened after that? Why is this important? Because he said that's important, right? So this is the book of Bereshith, chapter 1, and verse 22. Let's go, Bereshith chapter 1 and verse 14. Bereshith chapter 1, verse 14. He said, man, you don't need that nice son. He said, I don't need it. Yeah, you do. And Elohim said, let there be lights in the expanse of the Shamayim to separate the day from the night. Badal from what? Yom and Layla. And let them be for signs and seasons. Let them be for signs and seasons. And for days, or they say muads and shana, years. They say muads, signs and muads, and yamim and shana. Why? Because that's all a part of Issachar. He said they understand all the times and to know what Yahshua ought to do. And let them be lights in the expanse, in the Rekia of the Shamayim to give light upon the Arats, and it was so. And Elohim made the two greater lights, Gadol Maor, to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. And this Kukah, he gave the stars also. And Elohim set the expanse in the Shamayim to give light on the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate light from darkness. He said, man, he gave birth to Issachar. Man, I was able to I came in the evening time, man. He separated light from darkness, separating the envy of Rakal from Leah. To separate light from darkness. And you know what happens after that? To rule over the day and over the night, to separate light from darkness. And Elohim saw that it was good. Yahuah said, man, Yahuah, listen to me. Leah said, Yahuah, listen to me. And you know what happened? And Elohim saw that it was good, and there was evening and there was morning the fourth day. He said there was evening and morning the fourth day. Going back to Bereshith chapter 30, Genesis chapter 30, Genesis, Bereshith, chapter 30, verse 18. And it says right here, Bereshith 30 and 18. And Leah said, Elohim has given me my wages because I have gave my servant to my husband. So she called his name Yitzchak. And Leah conceived again, and she bore Yaakov a sixth son. He said, so she already bore him 9 sons. He said, so why 9 is important? This is the book of Galatians. Book of Galatians, chapter 5. He said, you need that 9th son. This book of Galatians, chapter 5 and verse 22. 5 verse 22. But the fruit of the Ruach is Ahab, because the greatest of these is Ahab. That's why you're going to lose confidence in the man who's taking care of you. Why do you think them women didn't lose confidence and hope in your code? That man Ahab. That man had so much love in his heart, so much patience. People had so much enduring. Ahab, people have no idea. But the fruit of the Ruach is Ahab. Joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such there is no law. Right? That's 9 things. Man, you need to understand the times. You need to understand the times. Because this is the times we in. And that time is Ahab. It's love. That's the time we're in. And that's the whole point. Right, so this is the book of, where we going? Yeah, we're going back there, but not right now. Yeah, we're going back to, right, so this is the book of, yeah, getting out of there. Going back to Genesis. Go back to Genesis. Genesis chapter 30, verse 1. Do that, Genesis chapter 30. Genesis chapter 30 and verse 20, 19. Yeah. Genesis chapter 30, verse 33. Actually, no, that's not it. Yeah. Goodness. Yeah, so here we go. Genesis chapter 30, verse 27. Genesis chapter 30 and verse 22. Then Elohim recalled, going back, that's not it either. Yeah, 30 and verse 9. And when Leah saw that she had ceased from bearing, she took her servant Zilpah, and gave her Yaakov as a wife. And Leah's servant Zilpah bore Yaakov a son, and Leah said, good fortune has come to me. And she called his name God. And Leah's servant Zilpah bore Yaakov a second son, and Leah said, happy am I, for women have called me happy. And she called his name Asher, because he had joy. But then guess what happened? In those days, the wheat harvest of Rehoboam went and found mandrakes in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. Right, skipping over verse 16. And when Yaakov came from the field in evening, Leah went out to meet him and said, you must come in to me, for I have hired you for my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her that night. And Elohim listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore Yaakov a fifth son. He said it was a ninth son born. And Leah said, Elohim has given me my wages, because I gave my servant to my husband. So she called his name Yitzchak. And Leah conceived again and bore Yaakov a sixth son. He said, this is the 10th son. Then Leah said, Elohim has endowed me with a good endowment, and now my husband will honor me, because I have borne him 6 sons, which was the 10th son. So she called his name Zabulun. He said, why you call his name Zabulun? It was the 10th son. Afterwards, she bore a daughter and called her name Dinah. He said, that was the 10th son. The 10th son name was Zabulun. He said, what does Zabulun name mean? It mean what? It mean to dwell, right? It means habitable, right? But then he said, why would he name it? Why would she say that? He said, he gave me a good endowment, right? Bereshit chapter 30, verse 20. Bereshit chapter 30, verse 20. Genesis chapter 30 and verse 20. Genesis chapter 30 and verse 20. It says, and Leah said, Elohim has endowed me. It says, that word is zabad. It means endure, right? With me, and a good dowry, right? That word for dowry, or he says a gift. He gave her a gift. Yahuah gave her a gift. Yahuah gave her a gift of a 10th son. And she called his name Zabulun. Did she shun that gift? Did she spurn that gift? No. Yahuah gave her that gift. And now when my husband dwell, that's what his name means. It means zabal. It means reside, to dwell. That's what his name with me. I have borne, because he bore him 6 sons, right? And that's all a part of it. He said, my son, that word for honor is zabal. It means to dwell. My son, my husband will honor me or dwell with me, because that's what honor is. Because I have borne him 6 sons. So she called his name Zabulun. Afterwards, she bore a daughter and called her name Dinah. He said, why would he do that? Because it's all a part of it. Right? This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 8. Hokmah of Shalama, chapter 8, Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 8, 12 through 21. 12 through 21. It says, when I hold my tongue, they shall bide my leisure. And when I speak, they shall give good ear unto me. And if I talk much, they shall lay their hands upon their mouth. He said, why? He said, why are you going to put your hand over your mouth? He said, if you spoken rash words against Yahuah. He said, man, put your hand over your mouth. Why? Moreover, by the means of her, I shall obtain immortality, by the means of Hokmah, and leave behind me an everlasting memorial to them that come after me. What do you think happened to Yaakov? Why are we still remembering him? And guess what? I shall set the people in order, and the nations shall be subject unto me. Horrible tyrants shall be afraid, and they shall do, they do but hear of, when they do and hear of me. I shall be found good among the multitude and valiant in war. After I am come into mine house, I will repose myself with her. Oh, you know what Yaakov did? For her conversation has no bitterness. Did she have any envy and jealousy in her heart like Yaakov? She had no envy. Her conversation had no bitterness. Now, why do you think he said that? And to live with her have no sorrow. It had no sorrow, but mirth and joy. Man, I'm happy. I'm Asher. That's what she just said. I'm Asher. That's all it is. I came into my house. She got confidence in me, and her hope is in me. Like Yahushua is taking care of the house. He said, man, everything that she says is a Hokmah and wisdom, and it's mirth and joy every time she see me. Now, when I consider these things in myself and pondered them in my heart, how that to be allied unto Hokmah, wisdom, is immortality. But you say, but you think about that. To be allied with Hokmah is immortality. So how, if one joins together, going together, two becoming one, and one doesn't have a Hokmah, how will you get immortality? Why? And it says, and great pleasure is to have her friendship. What do you think he did? That's a great friend. Hokmah is a friendship. And in the works of her hands are infinite riches. He said the works of her yard and her cup, her yard is infinite riches. Her yard. That's what the 10th letter of the Aleph was. What was the 10th son? Zabaloon. He said, I'm going to dwell with her. My husband going to dwell with me. It was the 10th son she had, Zabaloon. And the open right hand, yard. Guess what yard is? Open right hand of fellowship. Our infinite riches is infinite. Hokmah is infinite. And in the exercise of conference with her, prudence. And in talking with her, a good report. And I went about seeking how to take her to me. For I was a witty child and had a good spirit. So I had a good ruach. Yea, rather being good, I came into a body undefiled. Oh, that's a part of it. He says, oh, why? This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 7. The book of Ecclesiastes, Qahalath, chapter 7, 15 through 19. The book of Ecclesiastes, Qahalath, chapter 7, 15 through 19. In my vain life, I have seen everything. He said, I have seen it all. There is a righteous man who perishes in his righteousness, and there is a wicked man who prolongs his life. Why? Because we just talked about love. It's all going to pass away. Everything going to pass away. And there is a wicked man or woman who prolongs his life in his evil doing. Be not overly righteous. Right, because it's the English translation, but still. And do not make yourself too wise. Why should you destroy yourself? Why? Because in the other, when you start really reading it, it says increasing wisdom and knowledge and understanding, that you may destroy the evil darts. But at the same time, why would you destroy yourself? Why? Verse 17, be not overly wicked, neither be a fool. Why should you die before your time? Why are you going to be overly evil? Why are you going to keep doing evil? It makes no sense. You're going to die before your time. It is good that it is good that you should take hold of this, and from that, it says, it is good that you should take hold of this, and from that withhold not from your hand. That word for hand is yad. Don't withhold it from your yard. That's a 10th letter alphabet. You know how it is, Zabalun. Don't let it go from your hand, because you need Zabalun. He said you need to dwell with Hakma. Matter of fact, you need him to dwell with you. For the one who fears Yahuah shall come out from both of them, right? Hakma, wisdom, gives strength to the wise, or Hakam, man, more than 10 rulers who are in the city. That's why you need it. You need Hakma. Why? Because there's 10 rulers in the city. What's the 10th letter of the alphabet? Yad. Amazingly, what's the 10th letter of the what's the 10th Sephiroth? Ket. Kathar. You know, the crown. Hakma gives strength to the wise more than 10 rulers who are in the city. So if you say, I want to be this, I want to be that, how much wisdom do you have? Hakma. Because she had the 10th son, and she said, man, my husband going to honor me. Why? Because why wouldn't he not honor wisdom? Why would he not dwell with wisdom? Hakma. Why would he not dwell with the 10th letter of the alphabet? Why would he not dwell and understand even the 10th son that she had, Zabalun, saying that he's going to dwell with her? Why? Right, this is the book of Bereshith. This is Leviticus chapter 26. Leviticus chapter 26 and verse 29. Actually, yeah. Leviticus chapter 26 and verse 17. And it says, and I will set my face against you, and you shall be struck down before your enemies. Those who hate you shall rule over you, and you shall flee when none pursues. Why? Why is all this going to happen? Skipping over to verse 9. 26 and 9. And I will turn to you and make you fruitful and multiply. And then what Leah and recall, wasn't that what Yaakov was doing? And I will turn to you and make you fruitful and multiply, and you will confirm my berith with you. You shall eat old store, long kept, and you shall clear out the old to make way for the new. The old house the latter house gonna be greater than the former house. The old person you used to be, the old nature you used to be, without no wisdom, Hakma, without no Ahab, he said that's your former life. But he said the latter house gonna be greater than the former. And he says, and confirm my covenant with you, and you shall eat old store, long kept, and you shall clear out the old to make way for the new. Why? And I will make my dwelling among you, Zabulun. Hakma. And I will make my dwelling among you, or in you. Do not fear. Have you read in Habakkuk? Then when you read it, he said, my Ruach is among you. Do not fear. And he says, and you shall clear out the old and make way for the new, and I will make my dwelling among you, in you, and my soul shall not abhor you. Now your code gonna honor me. Your code gonna honor me now. He said, fools despise wisdom and instruction. He says, your code gonna honor me now. That's what Leah said. He gonna make his dwelling among me now. And she called his name Zabulon. And that's the 10th son. And I will walk among you and will be your Elohim. He said, is it not written in your Torah says you are Elohim? And you shall be my people. You have confidence in one going to take care of the house? Or you just spurned the gift that he gave you? Because he gave her a gift. It's a call. And you shall be my people. I am Yahuah, your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mizraim, and that you should not be their slaves. I guess you like being slave to your former life. And he says, and I have broken the bars of your yoke and make you walk erect. But if you will not listen to me and will not do these commandments, if you spurn my statutes, he said, you cast away my statute, you cast away the gift I gave you. For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of eternal life is Yahushua Mashiach. You know, the one who's going to take care of the house. You spurn my statutes, and if your soul abhors my rules, you abhor this gift I gave you. So that you will not do all my commandments, but break my covenant, then I will do this to you. I will visit you in panic, in wasting disease and fever that consumes the eye and make the heart ache. Now you see why he said, I'm the vine, you the branches. Every branch of me that does not bear fruit, he cuts away. And every branch that bears fruit, he prunes that it may bear more fruit. But I have to cut it away or it consume the whole thing. Right, so this is the going back to I think we done that. Yeah, we done that. That was the 10th son, right? Right, so that word for rulers, he said, wisdom is stronger. It says, wisdom gives strength to the wise more than 10 rulers. That word for rulers is shalith. Then 10 shalith. It says having the word shalith means having mastery or domineering master, having mastery. He said wisdom gives you strength more than shalith, domineering masters. Having mastery, right? Potent, concretely, a prince or a warrior. Having domineering. See, now you see people say, why is it important to have that? You need Hakma. It gives you strength more than the 10 shalit. Why? Because it's important. Right? So this is the book of Proverbs, chapter 31. Mashali, Proverbs, chapter 31. Proverbs, chapter 31. Mashali, Proverbs, chapter 31, and verse 10. Mashali, Proverbs 31 and 10. He says, an excellent Isha, who can find? She is far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he shall have no lack of gain. Right? He ain't gonna have no, he says prayer is not going to be hindered. She does him good and not harm all the days of his life. All the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and works with her hands, with her yod. With her yod. My husband gonna honor me now. You know why she worked willing with her yod? Because it's Abaloo. My husband gonna dwell with me now. Because it's Abaloo. Because she working willing with her hands. Why? Because it's 10 letter yellow. And guess what? She is like the ship of a merchant. She brings her food from afar. She rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household. And in the portions of her maidens, she considers a field and buys it. So with the fruit of her hands, her yod, she plants a vineyard. My husband gonna dwell with me. My husband gonna dwell with me. Zabaloon, he gonna dwell with me. She dresses herself with strength and makes her arms strong. He said, my husband gonna dwell with me. She perceives her merchandise is profitable. Her lamps does not go out at night. He said, man, you're cold. It came evening time. He said, come and dwell with me. She puts her hands to the distaff and her hands hold the spindle. She opens her hand, her yod, to the poor. Everything got to do with that 10th letter of the alphabet. This is why her husband going to do all with her. Yod. Her yod. Puts her hands to the distaff. Her yod. Puts her hands to the spindle. Her yod. Opens her hands to the poor. And reaches out her hands to the needy. Zabulun. She is not afraid of the snow. That's where we are now. Going to the longest night. For her household, her family. Amazingly, you had Yahushua Mashiach going to take care of the house. But then you had, the people had to have confidence in him. He says, and all her household are clothed in scarlet. She makes bed coverings for herself and clothing of fine linen with a purple. Her husband is known in the gates. When you're called known in the gates. And when he sits among the elders of the land, she makes linen. When she sits among the elders of the land, she makes linen garments and sells them. She delivers sashes to the merchants. Strength and dignity are in her clothing. And she laughs at the time to come. Man, I'm happy, man. I call his name Asher. I'm so happy I call him Asher. She opens her mouth with Hakma, wisdom. Because wisdom is stronger than 10 dominating masters. Wasn't Laban a dominating master? Hakma. She opens her mouth, her paw, with Hakma. And the teaching of kindness is in her tongue. Because you got to love kindness and walk Sanah in the side of Yahuah. What is required of you, O Adam? Verse 27, she looks well to the ways of her household, her family, and does not eat the bread of idleness. You know, lakam. Her children rise up and call her Barak. He said, your children rise up and call you Barak. And her husband also, and praises her. Now I'm going to praise Yahuah. Now I'm going to praise Yahuah. Many women have done excellency, but you surpass them all. Man, Yahuah has shown me good fortune. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears Yahuah is to be praised. Now I'm going to praise Yahuah. I'm going to praise Yahudah. I'm going to praise Yahudah. Yahudah. That's what I'm going to do. That's what her name was called. Give her fruit, give her of the fruit of her hands, her yod. And let her works praise her in the gates. Man, I'm going to praise Yahuah. That's what he said. That's what he said, right? We almost finished, right? This is the book of, I know you can go that far, right? This is the book of, right, so yeah, this is the book of Bereshit, chapter 24, Bereshit 24 and 20. Bereshit 24 and 15. Before he had finished speaking, Rebekah was born to Bethuel, the son of Michal, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, and came out with a water jar and showed it. And the young woman was very attractive in appearance, a maiden who had not known a man. Had no man had known. And she went down to the spring and filled the jar and came up. Then the servant ran to meet her and said, please give me a little water to drink from your jar, right? Skipping over. Going to verse 22. The man gazed at her in silence to learn whether Yahuah had prospered his journey or not. And when the camels had finished drinking, the man took gold ring weighing a half a shekel and 2 bracelets for her arms weighing 10 gold shekels, and said, please tell me whose daughter you are. He gave her a gift. Did she spurn that gift? Did she cast that gift away? You know, Yahuah gave Leah a gift. She called her name Yissachar. Did she cast that gift away? He said, why would you do that? He said, what? He said, man, I'm not casting that gift away. Yahuah gave that to me. And guess what? And she said, please tell me whose daughter you are. Is there a room in your father's house? Right? Skipping over. Verse 29. And Rebekah had a brother whose name was Laban. Right? You know, that same wicked man. And you know what happened? And Laban ran out toward the man to the spring as soon as he saw the ring and the bracelets on her arms and heard the words of Rebekah, his sister. Thus the man spoke to me and went to the man. And behold, he was standing by the springs of the camels. And he said, come in, O Barak of Yahuah. Why do you stand outside? He's like, you Barak. Right? All this is all part of it. But did she neglect the gift? Right? Going to verse 38. But you shall go to your father's house and to my clan and take a wife for my son. And I said to my master, perhaps the woman will not follow. Will she follow? I don't know. Does she got confidence and hope? I don't know. I don't know if she do. I don't know if she got confidence and hope in the one who's going to take care of the house, right? But he said to me, Yahuah, before whom I have walked, will send his Malaki with you and prosper your way, and you shall take a wife for my son, from my clan, and from my father's house, right? Right, skipping over, going to verse 44. Going to verse 47. Then I asked her, whose daughter are you? She said, the daughter of Bethuel, Nahor's son, who Makah bore him. So he put the ring on her nose and the bracelets on her arms. Then I bowed my head and worshipped Yahuah and baraked Yahuah, the Elohim of my master Abraham, who had led me by the right way to take the daughter of my master's kinsman for his son. Right? And all this took place. Right? Skipping over to verse 55. Her brother and her mother said, let the young woman remain with us a while at least 10 days. Oh, there you go. What was the 10th letter y'all was doing? Oh, Yod. Matter of fact, 10 days. What was the 10th son? Zabulon. But guess what? And after she may go, he said, after that, man, you go to the Kaf, man, she go Yod and Kaf, man, she go right to the Kaf. But he said to them, do not delay, since Yahuah has prospered my way. Man, Yahuah done prospered this thing. Why would you spurn the gift that he gave you? Why would you cast the gift away? Send me away that I may go to my master. They said, let us call the young woman and ask her. And they called Rebekah and said to her, will you go with this man? And she said, I will go, because she got confidence. She got confidence. Why would you spurn the gift? Right? Why would you go? And people say, why would he do that? He said, why would you do that? Right? So this is the book of Ezekiel. This is the book of Ezekiel. Ezekiel chapter 16 and verse 30. Ezekiel chapter 16 and verse 30. It says, how sick is your heart? Because they do always err in their heart. Declares Yahuah Elohim, because you did all things the deed of a brazen prostitute, building your vaulted chamber at the head of every street and making your lofty place in every square. Yet you were not like a prostitute, because you scorn payment. Because what does a man have to do to marry a woman? He got to pay the bride's price. He got to give gifts. And if you spurn the gift, why are you scorning payment? It's the payment for you. But you know why people will spurn the gift that you give them? Like Rebekah, she wore the bracelets and the rings. You know why they spurn the gift? You are not like a prostitute because you scorn payment. Adulterous wife who receive strangers instead of your husband because of the behaviors of your former life. Because the former life is why one still has the behaviors of the very same person one used to be. And when the actual bride's price get paid for you, I don't want that anymore. That stuff doesn't mean anything. I don't need that. You're not going to buy my love, right? All that stuff means anything because you still have the behaviors of your old life. You still have it. Men give gifts to all prostitutes. What do you think? And guess what he said? But you gave your gifts to all your lovers, bribing them to come to you from every side with your whorings. So you were different than any other woman in your whorings. He said, nobody has sex for free, intercourse. Nobody joins to marriage for nothing. But you say you do it for nothing. But when somebody gives you something, he said, Yahuah gave you, he done paid the price for you. I paid the price. I gave you a gift. For Yahuah so loved the world, he gave his only son. I gave you a gift, and then you spurned the gift. I don't want that gift anymore. I want to go back. He says, no one solicited you to play the whore, and gave you payment. With no payment was given to you, therefore you were different. Therefore, O prostitute, hear the word of Yahuah. Thus says Yahuah Elohim, because your lust was poured out on your nakedness, uncovered in your whorings with your lovers, with all your abominable idols were called. And because of the blood of your children that you gave to them, therefore, behold, I will gather all your lovers with whom you took pleasure, all those you loved and all those you hated, because that's all you're going to be doing. You're going to be stuck between two. Ain't going to be no ahab. This is all going to be love and hate. It ain't going to be all love. And I will gather them against you on every side and will uncover your nakedness to them, that they may see all your nakedness. Why? Because that's a part of it. That's why Yahuah said, don't you know you poor, you blind, you miserable, and you naked? That's what he said. And these are a part of it. And people say, why? Because you scorn payment. And people say, why? Because this is a part of it. Right? This is the book of Yirmiyahu. This is the book of Yirmiyahu. This is the book of Jeremiah. This is the book of Jeremiah. Jeremiah chapter 3 and verse 2. This is Jeremiah chapter 3 verse 2. It says, lift up your eyes to the bare heights and see, where have you not been ravished? By the waysides you have sat awaiting lovers, like an Arab in the wilderness. You have polluted the land with your vile whoredom. Therefore the showers have been withheld and the spring rains have not come. Yet you have the forehead of a whore, and you refuse to be ashamed. He said, you scorn payment. Because the bridal price has to be paid. Even the adulterous woman in Hosea chapter 4 had to pay. And she ain't even scoring payment. She ain't cast away the gifts that it was given. But he said, but you did. And you have not just now called to me, my father. You are the friend of my youth. Will he be angry forever? Will he be indignant to the end? Behold, you have spoken, but you have done all the evil that you could. He said, but then it ran out. Why? Because it's a part of it. Why? Because it's all a part of it. It's all a part of it, right? It's all a part of it. Right? It's all a part of it, right? So this is the book of this is the book of 1 Peter. This is the book of 1 Peter. So going to 1 Corinthians. Go to 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 16. 1 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 16. Or do you not know that he who is joined to a prostitute becomes one body with her? For as it is written, the two will become one flesh. That's what's going to happen. You're going to create a child in the image and likeness of your old life. because you refuse to throw that old life away, the former house. And you're going to have two becoming one. You're going to get a child with your behaviors inside of it. And those behaviors having died, you two becoming one, then you create a child after that image and likeness of your old behavior. But he who is joined to Yahuah becomes one ruach with him. Flee sexual immorality. Why? Because you're not going to create a righteous child if you become one and you create a child with that person. And they still have the residue of their behaviors, and they spurn the gifts that they gave you. And they still act like no man takes care of them. The very same thing, he said, you don't got confidence then in Yahushua Mashiach, that he going to take care of you. Because one, he says, flee sexual morality, for every other sin as a person commits is outside the body, but sexual moral person sins against his own body. But do you not know that your body is the temple of the Kudash Ruach within you? He said, fear not, the Kudash Ruach is within you. It's among you, whom you have from Elohim. You are not your own. You were bought with a price. You know why they spurn the gift? You know why they cast away the gift? Because they don't want to be bought. They don't want to actually be somebody else's property. He said, I own you. They don't want that. He said, they want to be their own master. And guess what? So Kabod, glorify Elohim in your body. I'm gonna dwell among you. If you accept the gift, then I will dwell among you, Zabalun. I will make my dwelling among you. Leviticus 26. And I will be your Elohim. But if you keep spurning the gifts, what good is that? He said you can't understand earthly things. There ain't no way you can understand spiritual things. He said you spurn the gifts in the natural. So what makes you think you understand the Ruach? He said, what makes you think you do? What makes you think you do, right? All right, so this is the book of 1 Peter. This is 1 Peter. 1 Peter chapter 1 and verse 17. 1 Peter chapter 1 verse 17. And if you call him as Father who judges impartially according to each one's deeds, conduct yourselves with fear throughout the time of your exile, knowing that you were ransomed from your futile ways, your worthless life, your worthless former life that destroys the latter house with your yard. Knowing you were ransomed from your futile ways, inherited from your forefathers, from your life. From your mother was a Hittite, and your father was an Amorite. Not with perishable things such as silver and gold, but with the precious blood of Mashiach, like that of a lamb without blemish or spot. He was foreknown before the foundation of the world, but was made manifest in the last times for the sake of you. That's why he did it. Who through him are the believers in Elohim, who raised him from the dead and gave him kabod, said your amunah and hope. Yet your confidence and hope. For a house is built by some man, but he said Yahuah made all things are in Elohim Yahuah, having purified your souls by obedience to the truth. For a sincere, brotherly, sisterly Ahab, and Ahab one another earnestly with a pure heart. Since you have been born again, your latter house is gone. Well, the former house is gone. Not the perishable seed, but the imperishable, through the living and abiding word of Elohim. For all flesh is like grass. It's going to pass away. But Ahab is greater than all of it. And all its kabod is like a flower of grass, and the grass withers, and the flower falls, but the word of Yahuah remains forever. Right? So this is Odes of Solomon 11, 1 through 6. My heart was pruned, and its flower appeared. Then Khan sprang up in me and produced fruits to Yahuah. For Yahuah. For the Most High circumcised me by his Kudash Ruach, then he uncovered my inward being towards him, and filled me with his love, Ahab. And his circumcising became my salvation, and I ran in the way of peace, in the way of truth. That's what he came to do for your house. Your Ahab, right? From the beginning unto the end, I received this knowledge. He said, if you received it from the beginning to the end, he said, guess what? And I was established upon a rock of truth where he has sent me. And then you'll understand that you build your house on a rock. It says a wise woman builds her house, but a foolish tears it down with her yard, her hand. But it says, and speaking waters touched my lips, and the springs of Yahuah generously. So I drank, and I became intoxicated with the living water that does not die. And my intoxication was not with ignorance, but I abandoned vanity, and turned toward the Most High, my Elohim, and was enriched with his favors. And I abandoned the folly, it says, cast upon the earth, and stripped it off, and cast it from me. And Yahuah renewed me with the garment, and possessed me by his light. And above he gave me immortal rest, and I became like the land which blossoms and rejoices in its fruits. And Yahuah is like the sun upon the face of the land. My eyes were enlightened, and my face received the dew. And my breath was refreshed by the present fragrance of Yahuah. And he took me to his paradise, wherein is wealth of Yahuah's pleasure. Why? Because he now wants to dwell with you. He wants you to dwell in his house. Right, it's Sirach 3, 17 to 23. My son and daughter, go on thy business in Anuah, Sanah. It's required, so that thou may be Daoud, or beloved of him that is approved. The greater thou art, the more humble thyself. And thou shalt find favor before Yahuah. Many are in high places and of renown, but mysteries are revealed unto the Anu. Why? For the power of Yahuah is great and honored with the lowly. Why do you think Yahushua took on the form of a servant? Aydah. Why do you think Abigail took on the form of a Shika? Why do you think Leah took on the form of a Shika? Why do you think Kawua took on the form of a Shika? Why do you think Adam had to serve, still had to be Aydah in the garden? Why do you think he had to do all that? Why do you think Yaakov had to endure 20 years? Because he had Ahava. Why? For the power of Yahuah is great and honored with the lowly. Seek not out things that are too hard for thee, neither search for things that are above thy strength. Why? Because spurning Yahuah's gifts is above your strength. Do you understand like what you're going to do? He said, when you exercise yourself, the things that are too high for you, you know what happens? Yahuah will bring you back to the reality and say, but what is commanded thee, think thereupon with reverence. For it is not needful for thee to see with thine eyes the things that are in secret. It's not. But it says, be not curious in unnecessary matters, for more things are showed unto thee than men and women understand. Why? This is the last thing. This is the last thing and I'm done, right? This is the book of Yeshayahu, chapter 37, Isaiah chapter 37 and verse 11. Actually, going to verse 37 and verse 37, actually, here we go. Yeah, 16. Yeshayahu 37 and 16. O Yahuah of hosts, the Elohim Yasharal, enthroned above the cherubim. You are the Elohim alone, of all the kingdoms of the earth. And you have made the Shamayim and the earth. Incline your ear, O Yahuah, and hear. Open your eyes, O Yahuah, and see, and hear all the words of Sennacherib. which he has sent to mock the living Elohim. Truly, O Yahuah, the king of Assyria have laid waste all the nations in their lands, and have cast their gods into the fire. For they were no gods, but the works of men's hands, wood and stone. These are all idols. Therefore they were destroyed. So now, O Yahuah, our Elohim, save us from his yard. That's the same thing when it comes to your life. When you're in Satan's hand. We ain't just talking about Assyria. We're talking about when Satan has you in his yard. You need to be saved from his yard. And you need to put down your former life, that your new life, the latter house, may be greater than the former. Right? That all the kings of the earth may know that you are alone, Yahuah. He said that you may know. This part of my mind, I'm done. This book of Psalms. Psalm chapter 80 and verse 1. Actually, Psalm chapter 80 verse 3. It says, restore us, O Elohim, let your face shine that we may be saved. O Yahuah of hosts, how long will you be angry with your people's prayers? He said, man, he's real angry. And you know what it says? You have fed them with the bread of tears, and given them tears to drink in full measure. You make us an object of contention for our neighbors, and our enemies laugh among themselves. Restore us, O Elohim of hosts. Let your face shine that we may be saved. Right? You brought a vine out of Mizraim. He said, you brought this vine out of Mizraim. You drove out the nations and planted it. Right? You think Yahushua said, I am the vine, you are the branches. But guess what, the vine? Guess what y'all doing as one man? You casting away the gifts. You know what he says? You cleared the ground for it, took deep root and filled the land. The mountains were covered with its shade, and the mighty cedars with its branches. It sent out its branches to the sea and its shoots to the river. And when they have been broken down its walls, so that all who passes along its way pluck its fruit, the boars from the forest ravaged it, and all that moved in the field feed on it. Turn again, O Elohim of hosts, look down from Shamayim and see, have regard to the vine. I'm the vine, you are the branches. Right? The stock of your right hand, your Yah. The stock your right hand planted. Now you see how he said you in the image and likeness of Yahuah, you use your yard the right way. And for the son whom you made strong for yourself. That's the whole point. So we look at all that. We look at Yahushua Mashiach. We look at the light of life. We look at the understanding of Yahushua Mashiach. But we look at his understanding within oneself. For we know in part, we know it in part. We know that when that which is perfect is come, Yahushua Mashiach, then that which is in part will be done away. But we live in this world, we are not of it. For Yahushua came and paid the price for us, that we may have right to the tree of life, and we should have confidence and hope that he will take us back and bring us back, and have confidence that he will take care of us. Even as each takes care of our household, he's going to take care of us. We should not spurn his gifts that he gave. He said he gave his life, not a bracelet, not a ring. He didn't do all of that. He gave his life. And most people would not even accept a man giving his life, for scarcely for a righteous man would one die, let alone for a good man. But while we were yet sinners, Yahushua provided a way for us. But we don't deserve anything. We don't deserve his love. We don't deserve his compassion. We don't even deserve him taking care of us. But yet, at the same time, even as a household doesn't even deserve a man taking care of them, even after they did all the evil and raw they could possibly can do. But even Yahushua Mashiach does the same thing. And that's why he tells us, love your love, even as Yahushua loved the body, and gave himself for it. Why? Because that's what he did. He took on the form of a servant. Can you drink of the cup that he's given us? Can you be a scapegoat? Can you go through the furnace of affliction? Can you endure all things through a heart? Can you? Both male and female. And Yalit, Nashim. Can you do it? Well, he did it. And he did it for everybody. So we look at all things that he's done, and we look at everything that he's going to do, and everything he's getting ready to reveal. For the revelation of Yahushua Mashiach is the Ruach of Naba. It's the Ruach of prophecy. And that all those who take hold of it, he said, you'll be able to attain the Ruach, the very Ruach that created all things. Ruach Marakav Al-Pani. For the meek shall inherit the earth. The Einu, the Einah shall inherit the Eretz.